Happy Monday, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us on UpNorthLive Unscripted at 6:30. I am Maya Engel, live in our digital studio. Super excited for our show today. But before we get into our content that we've been working on this afternoon, let's bring in our meteorologist, Joe, from the Storm Team Weather Center. And Joe, we talked about this in our earlier shows, but it was a really nice day outside if you just kind of looked out your window, no matter where you were in northern Michigan. Sunny, nice, not a lot of clouds in the sky, but it was a little bit chilly out there.
It was. It certainly was. It was a little deceiving today, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, welcome back. We missed you since you were here last Wednesday.
Yep, I took a little break, but I'm happy to be back. I missed you.
Well, we're glad to have you back. Yeah, it was a nice sunny day today, but we are going to start warming back up. So I don't think it'll be quite as cold tomorrow, Maya. More 70s than 60s in the forecast. Nice. So that's one thing. And next week, perhaps even a much bigger warm up on the way. So we kind of have that coming up. We'll take a look at that. And when we may get a couple showers too, a little bit later in the show.
It's just kind of, before I let you go, Joe, it's just kind of funny saying like, oh, it was kind of cold out there today. It was maybe like 60 degrees in Traverse City. And I walked outside. I'm like, oh, I need a sweatshirt. But 60 degrees in the late spring, early summer is so different than 60 degrees in the late fall.
Oh, it totally is different, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. But, the thing today, too, we had that north wind. It was cutting right across the area. So it did. I agree with you 100%. It just felt a lot cooler today.
Yeah. All right. Well, Joe, we'll talk to you again in a few minutes with more on the warm-up coming our way. But let's start off with our question of the day today. That is enough being done to address Michigan's increasing rent prices? As of right now, 15% of people who have voted say yes. 85% have said no. So if you haven't voted yet, be sure to scan the QR code on your screen now and let us know your thoughts on this question. I'm very curious, people who have said yes. I want to know the reasoning behind that. I'm just going to check out how many people have voted so far on our website. Looks like 157 people have voted. Looking at our Facebook page, we have about 19 comments on this topic. So let's look at a few of those comments. So Charles said, I am a landlord, own several rentals in Ottawa County for decades. I keep my rentals well maintained and very reasonably priced and still make plenty in profits. Far too many landlords are seeking obscene immoral wealth. That's the issue. And most I know are not against moral capitalism. Atara says, no, there should be a cap on how much they can raise your rent from year to year. Someone responded to that and said, yeah, there is a cap. Go buy a house. Ugh, if only it was that easy, right? Atara responded to that and said, I'd rather not, but thanks. Most states have a 5% cap if I'm right. My rent went up 20%. That should be illegal. And then this conversation goes on for a little bit. Going off of that, I also lived in an apartment complex where they did raise my rent 20%. And I also kind of thought that didn't seem right. And I thought maybe that is illegal. That's a pretty big jump. I looked it up. That is indeed, you can totally do that unless you live in like a low income housing where they have certain rules where you can't do that. But just for like an average apartment, they are able to do that. And I know in my situation, they told us that, listen, we are raising your rent this much. And I want to say this was maybe a couple months before I was moving out. I was living with a roommate. We looked at other options around Traverse City, trying to find a place that was cheaper. And we couldn't find any places that were cheaper in that time frame. So we ended up re-signing and paying that extra 20%. I have since moved out, so I'm not paying that anymore. But the reason why this is our question of the day, again, is enough being done to address Michigan's increasing rent prices. This is related to a story that Mark Shillette has been working on. So it's no secret that if you or someone you know, if you're paying for rent in northern Michigan, you know that the price is probably too high. That is pretty common. But what's a little less common is a number of tenants paying a lot and then in return getting very little from their landlords when it comes to things like repairs, housing conditions, and notice when it comes to raising rents. But as our Mark Shillette reports, we're going to show his story here in a second. I'm going to take down our question of the day. As Mark Shillette reports, there is proposed legislation in Lansing, and if it moves forward, all of that could change.
I'm living downtown in Traverse City, so it's been exciting. And since Cam Thompson works downtown, he's willing to pay a little bit more.
Right now, I am paying about $1,600 a month for a one-bedroom.
He's new to downtown, but not new to renting. His landlord now, no complaints from Cam.
Yes, there haven't been any surprises, thankfully. Everything was really well explained and laid out.
But in the past, previous landlords, not so much.
I've had a lot of bad experiences myself, and I've heard a lot of, negative, horrible experiences from my friends too.
To address those experiences, in Lansing, legislation has been proposed that intends to give renters more rights.
Does Michigan need this kind of legislation to protect renters?
Absolutely. We already know the rent is too high. Renters across the state have been demanding relief, and these bills are an important step towards providing some relief to renters to allow them to organize and hold landlords accountable, as well as to make essential repairs to their own homes.
The series of bills calls for changes, like landlords being required to inform current renters at least 3 months prior to the end of the lease of any rent increase, 6 months if the lease is longer than a year. It allows tenants to form unions and to deduct repair costs incurred by the renter from their monthly rent bill if not addressed by the landlord in a timely manner.
Is it important that we have one set of uniform rules across the board in writing to protect tenants' rights?
Absolutely, it is necessary. And with this right to repair bill in particular, I'd note that the ability to make repairs is an essential piece of what allows you to turn a house into a home. If you can't get essential repairs made, and instead you're just sitting there and your appliances aren't working and you've got mold growing up your walls, a home, it stops being a home. It becomes a trap.
While many landlords already have similar policies in place, housing right advocates suggest that having one set of uniform rules across the state will make it easier for landlords to live up to expectations and easier for renters to have a place they're proud to call home.
Is, somebody is home. So just because they're a renter versus not owning, which is not attainable for everybody, especially with interest rates, that's still somebody's right to have a safe home.
Mark Shalat reporting.
And just a little more background information on this legislation. So the bill was just introduced in the Senate on June 6th, so it does have a long way to go before it could potentially become a law. Now, Mark did reach out to several large apartment complexes in the area, and they say they already have policies in place that address many of the issues brought up in the legislation, and they say this may more impact smaller scale operations. So again, that is in relation to our question of the day, which I will put up in a few more minutes. That is enough being done to address Michigan's increasing rent prices? So we will circle back to that question in a few minutes, but right now let's switch gears a little bit. Pun intended, you'll see why. So classic cars are invading Sheboygan tonight. All of them Pontiac Trans Am. So it's a tribute to the 1977 film Smokey and the Bandit. They call it the Bandit Run. So our Daniel Zivian is in Sheboygan. He has been covering this story today. He's joining us live now from his car. So, Daniel, where are these drivers coming from and where are they going?
Hi, Maya. I am still reeling from the pun there. But in all seriousness, if you're from up here and you haven't heard of the Bandit Run, that's okay. This is actually a nationwide thing. That is to say, the drivers come from all over the country, and the Bandit Run has taken place all over the country. Tonight at 11, you're going to hear from the organizer. And what he told me was back in 2006 or so, he and his buddies who had Trans Ams were like, hey, let's do the route from our favorite movie, Smokey and the Bandit. And they did the exact route, and then they decided to start switching it up. And every year they go somewhere else. I'm told last year's Bandit Run took place in Tennessee and Nashville. So they chose Michigan for this one, and it's the first time, so they say. And they chose our own little place of Sheboygan to stop and rest for the evening.
Do you know why they chose Sheboygan?
Well, part of it has to do with the fact that the Sheboygan Opera House, which is also City Hall, has a theater. It has a movie screen. And I was told very specifically that they try as much as possible every year to get a viewing of Smokey and it in. So they were looking around Michigan for places they could go, ways they could go up one coast and down the other. And they were talking to Sheboygan, and Sheboygan said, hey, wait, we've got this giant screen that isn't used regularly, not in the way a traditional movie theater is used. So, yeah, seemed like a natural place. And they'll actually be staying in Mackinac City. They're going to leave here once the movie's done and go back up to Mackinac City where they came from to cruise the bridge at sunset and stay in some hotels.
Nice. So, do you know how many people are here for this?
A lot of people. Well, of course, they don't give me the stats in people. They give me the stats in cars.
In cars,
And
sure.
that is around about 100 Trans Ams that cruised
Wow.
all the way up here. They were in Holland yesterday. They got to move on this morning, had lunch in Cadillac, got right back on the road. Tonight, some of the footage you're going to see comes from me waiting on the side of M119, the tunnel of trees. It's the one-lane road, world famous, and there were parts where just a long line of Trans Ams just came up the road. I was warning some SUVs that were coming down the other way to look out on their way out. It's a tight fit.
What a cool experience. Are you going to watch the movie with them?
I might try to duck and catch the title card. Unfortunately, if I sit and watch the movie for too long, I might get a little bit too entranced with what's going on and I won't be able to make my deadline. But the fact of the matter is I have not seen Smokey and the Bandit before. I had to make sure I looked up the lyrics to the theme song so they could be referenced appropriately.
Nice.
Movie. I have not seen Burt Reynolds doing his Burt Reynolds thing. I was expecting to see some people dressed up as Burt Reynolds because I heard that was a thing that could happen, but I haven't seen any cosplay out there this time.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet, but I'll probably stop in there once we're done and just get a couple shots of them enjoying the movie. This is their favorite movie for all of them. All of their license plates are the same. They're
Oh my
very
gosh.
same license plate. It's very impressive.
That is awesome. Well, Daniel, enjoy the rest of your evening. I look forward to seeing your full story tonight at 11 o'clock, and I'm excited to see some footage of all of these cars going across the Mackinac Bridge. I know that'll be a cool sight.
Absolutely. You're going to have to check the bridge cam for that. I won't be out quite that late.
Yes. I'm on top of that. That's on me. All right, Dan, have a great rest of your evening. Thanks so much for joining us, as always.
You too. Bye, Maya.
See ya. All right, we're going to take a short break here on Up North Live Unscripted. And when we come back, we'll check in with our meteorologist, Joe Charlevoix, for your full weather forecast for this upcoming week. Stay with us. Welcome back to Up North Live Unscripted at 6:30. We're going to bring in our meteorologist, Joe. He is in our Storm Team Weather Center. And
Oh, hi.
hi, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I'm sure some people really loved I don't even want to say cold or like cooler temperatures. So it's still 50s, 60s, but the a little less warm temperatures today. But others, like myself, I'm more of like a 70s type of gal. And it sounds like we might be seeing a little more of that this week.
A little more of that moving forward here. The one nice thing, though, if you don't like the heat and the humidity, it was nice. Good sleeping weather, too.
Exactly. Great.
Yeah,
sleeping weather.
at least at night. But it is going to be even pretty chilly tonight, Maya. I mean, we're talking maybe a little frost in some spots.
Oh, gosh.
Coming up here. Let's go to Houghton Lake. I'll start there. Doesn't that look nice? The Hudge, I know it's a little cool, but I wouldn't mind being on the pontoon.
I would not either. Warm enough for that.
Yeah, that's a live look there, Roscommon County right now. 64 degrees with a northwest wind, and that is an area that is under a frost advisory tonight issued by the National Weather Service. So it's for all the blue shaded areas, much of the UP, and then a lot of areas from the bridge down toward Houghton Lake. And that's where we do have that frost advisory tonight. You might want to consider covering up the plants. I don't expect widespread frost everywhere. This will be kind of patchy, but this is where it's more susceptible. Low and mid 30s, mainly between 2 and 8 a.m. Tonight is where we're expecting some of that frost. And I'll give you a look at the forecast lows tonight. So here's kind of a look at that. 32 being freezing. We'll be close in a few spots, and especially away from some of the towns and cities. You could get down 32, 34-ish in a couple spots, but these are the actual lows that we're forecasting overnight tonight. Bel Air, Grayling, 36, 38 there at Newberry. What a nice day, though. Here's our satellite picture. No clouds anywhere nearby. They are off to the east of us now. You have to really get out into the plains to see some stronger storms there in South Dakota. We might get a few showers with that and some increasing clouds. And that's what this looks like. So tonight, nice and clear, maybe a little patchy frost. Tomorrow morning, sunny skies. And then as we get into the afternoon, there come the clouds. And notice tomorrow evening, maybe a few showers, but it's not going to be a lot. And then Wednesday, we're back to some sunshine and some pretty pleasant weather coming up. And if you look at the extended forecast here, Maya, to your point, yeah, a little bit of a warm up. We should see 70s tomorrow. 70s and 80s in some spots Wednesday and Thursday. And then look at next week. Look at Monday.
Wow.
Yeah, 81 and 87, the high temperature. So next week, there's signs of a big ridge working in here. That implies some warm weather. With regard to rain this week, a couple showers maybe tomorrow evening, tomorrow night. And then Thursday, the chance for a shower or thunderstorm later in the week. But by far today, to your point, this will be the coolest day of the week today, and then a little bit of a warm-up coming up.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for letting us know what to expect this upcoming week. We'll see you back here tonight on Up North Live News at 11, but we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we will see what our sports director, Harrison Beebe, has been up to today. Stay with us. You're watching Up North Live Unscripted. Welcome back, everyone, and thanks again so much for joining us tonight on Up North Live Unscripted. Good way to spend a Monday evening, huh? Well, let's see what our sports director, Harrison Beebe, has been doing on this lovely Monday evening. Hi, Harrison.
I decided to spend it with you and the unscripted viewers, Maya. That's what I'm
Good
doing this
choice.
Monday evening.
Well, what's going on in the sports world, Harrison?
Well, as you guys know, in the spring season, I'm kind of all over the place. This is going to be a very busy week on the tail end. Thankfully, today is a little slower. Let's start with golf, though. Shout out Traverse City St. Francis, the Gladiators, winning the Division III individual and team state championships. David Ansley right there. He was the individual champion, won in a playoff. So that was a nail biter for him to come out on top. But the team wrapped up the title by 18 strokes over Jackson Lumen Christie on Saturday down in Big Rapids. So the Gladiators, your Division III individual and team state champions on the golf side. Have a little bit from them today, more from them later in the week on Thursday's Jimmy John Sports Corner. They came into the studio, talked about the victory and the success. It's not easy. We don't have golf teams that win down there every year, or much less, finish that close in contention. So it's definitely pretty cool. One of them walks away with one or both sets of hardware. And mentioned earlier how this is a big week for baseball and softball. They're going to wrap up at the end of the week with the state championships down on the campus of Michigan State. We know the Charlevoix Raiders are going to be playing down there Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Can't wait to get up bright and early on Thursday morning. Right? I saw a fan out and about this Saturday with the Charlevoix girl, and she's like, 9 a.m., you going to be there? I'm like, yeah, we'll find a way. So I basically promised her I'd be there. I can't let her down, much less the Raiders as a whole. So we will be down there for, Thursday morning to cover them. And we know we're going to probably expect some softball teams to be down there as well. That'll be determined tomorrow in the state quarterfinals when we get through all those matchups.
Awesome. Well, lots of exciting stuff that you're working on today. Kind of a lot of it looking ahead to some very exciting events the rest of the week. Anything else going on tonight?
The Pittsburghers playing tonight, coming up. I think they put up 14 runs yesterday in their win, which is great to see because the two games I caught of them last week, they didn't score a lot of runs. So just goes to show, just like the Tigers yesterday, they won 10-2. So despite what we've seen in some of these games, these teams can score runs. They're apparently just being very strategic about when they want to do so.
Yes, it's just not consistent, but that's okay. All right. Thanks, Harrison. I'm looking forward to seeing you back here on Up North Live News at 11 tonight.
Thanks, Maya.
We'll see you then. And we're going to take one more break here on Up North Live Unscripted. I'll put up our question of the day on the screen one more time for those of you watching online. You can scan the QR code and vote, and we'll check out those results when we come back. All right, welcome back to Up North Live Unscripted. Taking one last look at our results for our question of the day. The percentages haven't changed too much. I hope that doesn't mean you haven't been voting. Is enough being done to address Michigan's increasing rent prices? So, similar to how the results were at the beginning of the show, 15% of people say yes, 85% of people say no. I'm hoping all you folks, you did vote, and the percentages just have stayed consistent because you're voting back and forth. But yeah, be sure to scan the QR code if you haven't voted yet. You can also leave a comment on our Facebook post with any opinions you have about this topic. And if you missed the beginning of our show where we showed Mark Gillette's story on this topic and potential legislation that is being proposed in Lansing, you can watch that on our website, upnorthlive.com. That's also where you can watch all of our stories that we have been working on today. And be sure to join us tonight on Up North Live News at 11 as well. I will keep up our question of the day for a few more minutes after the show. So again, if you haven't voted yet, please scan that QR code. And I just want to thank everyone so much for joining us on this Monday evening. And I just really enjoy this show. I really enjoy talking with everyone. So I hope you all are enjoying it as well. So thanks again so much for joining us. And we'll see you back here tonight on Up North Live News at 11. Take care, everyone.